Welcome back to the Maniacs podcast. Bob Ryan, fresh off his trip to Byron, Maine, ladies and gentlemen. There are two people. Now, there's one other person I know, not from Maine, that actually knows what Byron, Maine is, and that's Bob Ryan. So, Bob, I'm glad you're back. You were in my home country, and I'm glad you had a great vacation.
Did have a great, everything went great up there, yep.
Good old Rangeley, Maine. Byron, Maine, terrific. And also, we are brought by Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens. Feel better, folks. All right, Bob, let's get to it. Rob Williams is hurt. Shocking. Where have we heard this before? He's going to have the knee scoped. It's not catastrophic because he's going to miss the preseason, the beginning of the season. He should be okay. But you just got to wonder. I mean, are we ever going to see this guy have a healthy season?
All we talk about is, not all we talk, one of the number one thing that we talk about during the season is Rob Williams. He's great when you have him on the floor. You got to keep him on the floor, and keeping him on the floor is really problematic. I was very upset with this. I thought, that there wasn't, he was going to start the season anyway. Here's the numbers, Garrett, on Rob Williams. He's played 4 years in the NBA. In his first season, he played 32 games. Then he played 29 games. Third season, 52, and last year a career high 61. He's been available for 174 of a potential 328 games. And you can see the vast difference when he's on the floor. They're a totally different team. I mean, at both ends. Obviously, the defensive end, it's obvious. But his offensive, the lob, he's always a target. He's dangerous. He's a dangerous player against the other team.
And he can run.
And he can run. He's a tremendous athlete. He's the kind of player that we, quote unquote, Boston has lacked throughout the last 20 years. That other teams have gotten those kind of centers. We haven't had that kind of guy, and now we got our own. And when he's out there, this is disappointing. 4 to 6 weeks. Well, the season opener is October 18th. That is 4 weeks plus. That's all. So definitely he's going to miss. He may make it, but I wouldn't count on it.
Well, there's no reason to rush him.
No, they're saying a 4 to 6 to make it to 6, but it's just so disappointing. And the fact is that there's no replacement suitable. They'll go small. Al Horford will have to move to the 5, which against some teams is okay. Some other teams it isn't. If it matters that much, because we're in an era now where the old nomenclature doesn't matter. It's all about. Brad Stevens told us 2 years ago. It's about bigs, wings, and ball handlers. That's the NBA now. Bigs, wigs, and ball handlers. So but still, Al is best suited in as a wing, as a 4. And Luke Cornett, I don't know. They're going to go out. I don't think they're going to worry about getting somebody if they're going to get him back.
No, I don't think so.
They're going to make do, and if they get the right matchups, they'll keep their head above water. But it's disappointing and it's scary. I mean, when is he ever going to be healthy? I mean, I don't know.
Well, we don't know. And right now he has the label of being injury prone. And fair or unfair, it's accurate. I feel bad labeling players that are injury prone because it's not like they're doing it on purpose.
Oh, no. God,
it's just the way it is. Now, to me, Bob, and let's talk about the difference in the Celtics when he's on or off the floor. Because to me, I think he's the key to winning a championship. Now, when you talk about not making the deal for Durant and you have Jaylen Brown here, I think this year is going to be more difficult because teams are going to be healthier. We all know it's hard to get back to the finals. We all know it's hard to repeat. When Williams is on the floor, I think this team can beat anybody. I think they can beat anybody because the ball moves, he runs, he's an intimidator, he can block shots. The game changes completely. I've never seen anything like it, completely. So I think he's that important. So let's break it down. What do you see from the Celtics when he's on the floor?
Well, you see a team that can play a type of defense that knows that it's got help in the back, and for sure. And I'm sure they play with a certain kind of confidence that they don't have when he's not there. And and as I said, on offense, he's always a threat, a target for that lob. And he's not a great offensive player, but he's a threat in that regard, and it changes things. And absolutely, no, they're different. You're right. They're very, very different, and a lesser team when he's not there. And
I think pace is a big deal. I think, to me, what I've seen, and maybe it's just in my head because I'm such a Rob Williams fan. To me, they seem a step quicker when he's out there. I don't know why. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. Maybe I can't say you're right or you're wrong. At all. That's your observation. That's fine. I just know they're better. I just know, we all know that it is the vast difference when he's there and he's not there. And you can say he's the key. Well, of course, if they were to lose Tatum, that would, or
Tatum, obviously.
No, I'm saying, but they need all their components. They had it all going. Whatever that moment was in January when they had their come to Jesus moment and they started playing basketball to the point where they were the most successful team in the league from then to the end of the season in terms of wins and losses. They didn't win the championship because they didn't win the final series against the best team in the league. Okay, fine. But no team was more successful overall night in and night out than they were from January on. And he was a major, vital part of that. And, so they got to have him. So, I mean, it's not a catastrophe. And if in fact he's back in 6 weeks, and he's healthy, but the thing is, you're always worried about when. Well,
it's always something, though. It's turf toe or this or that, and I mean, nagging injuries. I mean, again, not catastrophic, but something that always takes him out of the mix.
So that's it. So that was the first dose of bad news. Well, the second dose actually. The first dose was Gallinari. We hardly knew yet. We never had yet, and but we were all enthused about the possibilities that he brought, and they're no longer there. So that's that. And we're wondering if they were going to go out and find somebody, and even floating the name of Carmelo Anthony. But they still haven't definitively said whether they're going to go out and try to get somebody in that regard. But that was the first dose of bad news. And now here's a bigger dose of bad news. So unfortunately, that's where we are.
Yeah, Bob, if this guy is healthy for the next 10 years, where does he end up? How do you envision him?
I don't know whether he's going to develop how much of an individual offensive game. Would you ever say? I mean, right now you're not throwing the ball into him and asking him to score very often.
No.
Then again, the league, the way the game is being played now, there aren't that many bigs that are back to the basket and getting the pass and ask to score. That's just not the way the game's played anymore, much to my regret, of course. But he's going to have accumulated experience. He's intelligent, first of all. We know that, and he's going to accumulate experience. He's going to have book on opponents. He's going to have institutional knowledge. There's no reason why he's. What is he? 24? He's
young.
And so this is the thing. As a group, all the key players are still. 27 and under. I think that's what Smart is now. But my God, they're still probably the peak of Smart's career. But the others are still have possibilities of getting better, and they should get better. So we're in good shape in that regard. If they stay in this uniform, because we all know that it's a volatile world with regard to comings and goings, and much different than it was in the old days. And you can't project 5 years of who's going to be in uniform, when free agencies come up and things happen, or guys started rallying their sabers, now guys can, which we see, how many, I don't know if we're going to have an endless succession of Hardens and Durants and Irvings and people that are, able to try to get their way in and out of places. But, in a sense, we've seen a little bit of it. Donovan Mitchell made himself kind of a poison pill in Utah. And so that's the way of the world. But so you can't project too far down the road. It's wise as a fan to keep your sights in the present, and enjoy what you got when you got it.
A fan of the show and a big fan of Bob Ryan, nice guy, Alejandro, approached me the other day, and he watches the podcast, listens to the podcast, watches the Zoom. Boogie Cousins. Your thoughts on that? Because they say this guy's is in incredible shape now, and that he's not going to be on the market long.
There was a time somewhere along the way when I not flipped, but I began to give him more the benefit of the doubt. And I remember saying a couple of years ago, I'd go pick him up at the airport. I'd take a shot.
I would.
But there was a time when you would never think about that. But I would think about that. I think he's at the point where if he's got something left, he's older than you think. I mean, people forget how long. He was the same draft as John Wall, I believe, and they were
Oh, he's been around.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind kicking those tires. Frankly, no, I wouldn't mind at all.
Yeah, I'd definitely take a look at it. Athletic Greens, folks. Athletic Greens. You want to feel good? You got to check this out. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health. It's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens will give away a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D in 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens/hoops. Again, that is athleticgreens/hoops to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Athletic Greens, AG1. Check them out. Okay, guys. Bob, you reminded me that 50 years ago, perhaps the greatest Celtic team ever? I don't know. 72, 73?
The best team that didn't win in Celtic history, the 72-73 Celtics, and remain, in my mind, among the top maybe 3 teams in the history of the franchise. And
because Hondo got hurt, right?
Well, and John Havlicek got hurt in Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. But what happened is that here's a team was on the move. After Russell retired, the first year was obviously a shaky transition year with a new coach and adjusting to life without Bill Russell and Sam Jones. And they won, and were led by John Havlicek, still at the peak of his career, led the team in scoring, rebounds, and assists, by the way, in the 69-70 season. Then comes Dave Cowens. And that was the beginning of the turnaround. They draft Cowens in 70. They win 44 games. They do not make it back to the playoffs. Then in 71-72, they win 56 games. They make it to the playoffs. They're beaten by the Knicks in 5, humbled a little bit. The guy they can't handle is Dave DeBusschere. He's killing them. Satch is at the end of his career, and they don't have a power forward. And here comes Paul Silas. Right. And how they got Paul Silas, of course, was part of the Auerbach savvy. Back in the 70 draft, when the ABA was still flourishing, the Celtics in the 7th round took Charlie Scott from the University of North Carolina, even though he had already signed a contract to play in the ABA, just to have his rights. Well, guess what? At the end of the 71-72 season, near the end, Charlie Scott jumps back to the NBA. Charlie Scott jumps right from the Virginia Squires, and the Phoenix Suns are making a Google eyes at Charlie Scott. They want Charlie Scott. Well, guess who has the rights to Charlie Scott? Arnold Red Auerbach. And guess what Phoenix has that Boston can use? Well, they have a 6'7" power forward, 29 years old, named Paul Silas, who was just coming off his career year, having lost 30 or 35 pounds from the year before, and transforming himself from a big, bulking, thuggy kind of guy to a guy who could actually get up and down the floor and still maintain his other skills. He's the missing link. And he and Cowens hit it off beautifully. And that team goes off. They win their first 10 games. And off and running, they win 68 games. It was a magnificent season. They ran, oh my God. Yeah, Cowens is on his way to be an MVP. It's an idyllic season. And it was a fun year, but I can't believe I just reminded myself this week, oh my God, it's 50 years from that team. But that team should be remembered. And of course, what happened was they got in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Knicks. And in Game 3, John Havlicek gets caught in a pick between DeBusschere and Bill Bradley, and it hurts his right shoulder. Ooh. And they go to New York for Game 4. It's one of the most interesting, famous games in the history of their playoff history. They are beating the Knicks by 16 points entering the 4th quarter without Havlicek. And the Knicks make a big comeback, thoroughly aided and abetted by the officials, Jack Madden and Jake O'Donnell. And it was the most criminal, ridiculous 6th and 7th man thing that you could ever see. Not just my opinion. Jack Kaiser of the Philadelphia Daily News labeled this game, quote, the rape of Madison Square. And so he was sticking up for the Celtics. They lose in overtime, double overtime, and game 4, and go down 3-1. Game 5 is in Boston. Havlicek is going to play now with one arm. He's playing left-handed for the most part. He scores 18 points, and they win the game. Silas has a big rebound game. And then they go to New York, and they win game 6, and they come back, and Havlicek he's lesser. He's not doing so well. But they pull it out, come home. They had never lost a 7th game at that point in their history. And we were all brimming with confidence. Well, Havlicek comes off the bench, and as soon as he comes in the game, they swarm all over him. They attack him. They're not going to let John Havlicek beat him with one arm. And he starts turning it over. And you know what? The career game, and any Knick fan who will know, verify this, Dean Meminger.
Who?
Dean the Dream Meminger had a career game that Sunday afternoon in Boston. The Knicks win the game and go on and beat the Lakers and win the championship. Now, the thing about this that it was doubly frustrating for Heinsohn and the Celtics was that had they beaten the Knicks, they swept the Lakers in the regular season. They destroyed them. Cowens averaged 31 points and 19 rebounds a game against the Lakers. Wilt was in his final year, Chamberlain, and he had lost all lateral mobility. And Cowens just ran by him and around him, and he couldn't go out and guard him because Dave could shoot from the outside too. That's one thing great about Dave was he could play inside or outside. Yeah. And he destroyed Wilt, and they would have beaten him. They would have won that championship. But that's the great what if Havlicek's shoulder, when it doesn't get hurt and they don't get hurt. But that team, I'm telling you, want to see a team run? Oh my God, could they run?
What I remember about Silas is, I think in 1975, didn't he lead the league in offensive rebounding?
Well, I'm sure he was the premier offensive rebounder in the NBA in those years, and he was a master of offensive rebounding, and he was an all defensive type league player. He had sneaky little offense. I used to, he had nice little inside moves, and he had a little tippy toe set shot that he could make at times. I mean, one time I used to kid him about it, and I think he made like 7 in a row in one stretch. His little tippy toe jump shot, but Paul Silas was much more than just a player. He was I call him the conscience of that team. He is a man's man type guy of a locker room thorough presence. One of my all-time favorite people. I became very friendly with Paul Silas, personal friend. It was a privilege to know him. And, he wound up playing his 4 years with the Celtics. They won 2 championships, and they won 60 games in 1974-75 and 56 in 1975-76 when they won a championship. Went to he was absolutely, a critical part of them, of that era.
And another limb of the Red Auerbach coaching tree.
Yes, right. One of the many coaches that have come out of Red Auerbach, absolutely. But one of them is, it didn't end the way it should have ended here. They really didn't want to pay him what he wanted. And after 75-76, and he wound up getting traded to Denver. And of course, that's how we got Rowe. That's how we got Wicks and Rowe.
Yeah, we forget about those years. We don't remember.
It's a whole other era. And of course, that led to Cowens.
Wicks, Curtis Rowe era.
That led to Cowens doing his famous sabbatical.
Yeah.
So distraught, losing count, and he just wasn't ready to court. Not ready to play, and all that. But anyway, 50 years. I mean, it's sobering for me to think about that. But that was it was a pure joy covering that team and watching.
Charlie Scott ended up back with the Celtics for Paul Westphal.
That's exactly right. Charlie became a Celtic and got a ring in 1976. And the thing that I always remember about Charlie, he came up big in there were all 3 6-game series they won. And in each of the 6 games, Charlie had a big game. Charlie had a big 6 game. And here's the story behind the story on the game 6 in the finals. Game 5 was the famous triple overtime game.
Sure. Garher.
Historic game, one of the great games in NBA history. And Charlie had fouled out in very minimal minutes of, like 25 or so. He fouled out. He was terrible. And after the game, Red told him, "Go get your rest. You're going to be important on Sunday." Remember the game? That game was on Friday night.
Yeah.
The turnaround Sunday, like 12 noon Phoenix time, or on Sunday. He said, "You're going to be important on Sunday. You get we're going to count on you." And Charlie came up big, had like 25 points in that sixth game. So he served his purpose here.
Okay, another Bill Russell moment as they continue to celebrate his life. Your thoughts when you heard that number 6 was going to be put on the floor?
Well, I mean, I knew they were going to do something, and first of all, opening night's going to be a ceremony of some sort, and they're going to be. They said that they were going to be honoring him in some way or fashion continually throughout the year. Well, they're going to put number 6 on the foul lane in Boston. That's cool. I'm saying nobody's ever done anything like that that I know of, and that's really cool. This is all belated. Now it's posthumous, but. It's all trying to make up these for something that can never be fully redressed is how Boston didn't officially appreciate him enough.
And also, guys, as the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. You can create a free job post within minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small business ranks LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires and leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week 40 million job seekers use LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/scribe. That's linkedin.com/scribe to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. What I think is amazing about, look, we all know about his career on the floor and how he was the consummate teammate, terrific coach, very bright, knew the game, sacrificed individual statistics for the greater good, and they won 11 championships. But what I think is the impact he had on the players today when he started to become more visible, because Bob, we've talked about it before. We had the event at the Garden. He did it for his daughter and her charitable organization, right, where they officially retired the number.
Right.
And you want to talk about a who's who. I mean, we were both there. I mean, a who's who was at that. My God, everybody and anybody who, NBA royalty, and showed up for that. Sure. But the way that he impacted the players later, when you would see him on the sideline at these games, and LeBron would talk to him in different places, Steph would talk to him, and he really became a mentor. Yep. To today's NBA player, which I always found very impressive. Because I think there was a feeling, I don't know if I want to use the word recluse. Recluse might not be the right word, but Russ could turn it on when he wanted to. We talked about that. But the fact that he was very public later in life, I think meant a lot to this league and to the players. I think that's a very good point. And someone I was quoted on, in the time, immediate aftermath of his death, as saying the cool thing is getting the Bill Russell Trophy presented to you by Bill Russell at in the finals. Sure. Maybe it was LeBron. Someone said that. And you're right. I'm glad that there's an appreciation that has now been instilled on the modern generation to understand how incredibly important and just noble and completely great Bill Russell was in the league. And so while you've got the JJ Reddick's talking about the league
to playing against plumbers and firemen, where these guys are getting the real scoop on what it was like.
Oh, sure. I mean,
no, I'm saying, I can't help taking a cheap shot at JJ.
Well, it's ridiculous.
Maybe another year or two I'll stop doing it.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just
I'll find a way to get it in most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, look.
But you make a great point, and I'm happy about that. And you're right about his personality. I was witness to this. I had a little acquaintanceship with him, and nobody could turn on the charm better than Bill Russell.
And he needed it. I mean,
but he could turn it on. It's like a faucet. Nobody could be more chilling with a stare than Bill Russell either.
Oh, sure.
So, but he's a complex human being. And I quoted the great quote that you hang your hat on with him about how he ran his life and his daily life. And it says, my citizenship is not a gift. It's a birthright. And that's the way that was the approach he took to every day in his life. I don't have to ask you for, I shouldn't be asking you for anything in terms of my citizenship and my rights and where I can go and what I can do and who I can, Well, I never heard anybody else that summed up the concept of human dignity and then better than that, and that was Bill Russell.
And you know how I feel. I think Six should just be retired permanently. I don't think anybody.
Well, I've been waiting for LeBron to do the right thing, and he's the one,
He's the one.
There's a handful of them, but I'm waiting for LeBron to do the right thing. I'm hoping that he will, and that would really be cool. And if he can't, why he couldn't understand, it would elevate him in people's eyes.
Oh, it would. It's the right thing to do. I hope he does do it.
By the way, have you read it yet? I haven't read it yet, but I'm curious. The Sports Illustrated story that's out about LeBron and Bronny and his two boys and the whole idea, about him wanting to play with LeBron. I
have not seen it.
Well, I got to read it too, but I did see the quote. He's not doubling down. He's tripling down about this is something he really wants to do. And he's saying, I don't care. I don't give a, what anybody thinks about this idea, so it's going to be interesting. And the thing is not whether he can hang on, it's whether the kid is good enough, Well,
listen, I try to refrain from second guessing other parents. I really do. Like we hear parents talk about this and you should do this with that your kid, blah, 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 blah. The only thing I will say is, and I saw it somewhere with Doc and his kid, it puts a lot of pressure on the kid. It puts a ton of pressure on the kid.
It does. And, and apparently, our friend Jeff, our partner, colleague Jeff says the kid's, seems like a good kid. He's handled this as well as you could possibly.
And he's a good player. He's a good player. He's
a top 50, top 40, 45, 50 apparently player.
Right.
And, that's tremendous. But that's a long way from being a top 10 or being a year away from the NBA or 2 years away from the NBA. So you're right. This is unfair to the kid, and I wish LeBron would understand that. But oh well, he's doubling down. It is, and it's it's a wonderful concept. Obviously, if you can pull it off, ask the Griffeys. They know what it feels like.
Oh, sure.
And who else? Tim Raines, he got to do it too.
Right.
And of course the House are the all-time champion because that was, in terms of, the House.
Well, the House almost became they were kind of like a traveling circus.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, come see the old man and the two kids, da 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 da. But he's like 60 years old playing for the Houston Aeros.
I know it. But what the Griffeys did, hitting home runs, back to back is just.
Oh, what's better than that?
Top that. But anyway, I'm just recommended. Pick it up and read it. I got it. I haven't reading it yet.
All right, Bob. As we wrap it up, Draymond Green has called up the owners, and he wants them to take a vote about kicking out Robert Sarver, the owner of the Phoenix Suns, who's been suspended for verbal abuse in the office. Racial remarks, sexist remarks, but just being basically a real asshole. And he wants the owners to take a vote. Is there enough pressure, or can the players put on enough pressure that the owners will do this?
I'm borrowing this. I'm not going to claim this is an original thought. I'm going to give full credit, here. When I was watching PTI last week, and Michael Wilbon made it adamant, his opinion was that the only way that you're going to get them out is if there is a massive player. Players are the only avenue. Right. It won't be the owners taking the initiative themselves. Now, remember, how a guy gets into the league is you have to be approved by the other owners. That's right. The way. So now the reverse, we've never had happen. Where they voted someone off the island. Adam Silver was able to get rid of Sterling because they had evidence that, of course, they had video and they had audio evidence, sure. And it was odious. But that's the only way. I doubt it'll ever happen. I don't now, and maybe Sarver will come around, but let me put this to if I said a player is going to come out and take a firm stand in this regard, how many guesses would you have needed before you would have arrived at Draymond Green?
Oh, sure. Well, right.
This is so. Yeah. That's just so classically, And by the way, I agree with him. Of
course. The guy should not be. He should not be an owner in the league. It's a point well taken. But I will. And again, this is not an original thought coming from me either. But I believe I heard it. We discussed it a lot during the NFL. Owners have skeletons in the closet too. Yeah, that's right. So why this guy, Sarver, he's obviously not shy, and he is who he is to a fault. But other owners are going to say, well, wait a minute here. I don't want somebody digging into my past, right? Coming after me.
That's an assumption I think we're fair in making, that there has to, the odds are that there's plenty of a certain percentage of the owners, that's their that would be their stance. Oh my God, I don't want to open this can of worms. No, I don't want to deal with it.
Right. And another thing is sometimes owners, your former colleague Ron Borges often quoted Tex Schramm, owners of the ranchers, players of the cattle. That's the way he referred to football players. That was like the mentality of the 70s.
Where did the quote come up during one of the negotiations of sport in our recent times about the inmates running the asylum thing? Someone made that analogy, and they're the billionaires.
The owner's going to say, "Wait a minute, we're the owners." Some guys will say, this guy shouldn't be in the league. He just should not be in the league.
Meanwhile,
they're going to go, the player, look, you guys aren't owners. We run the ship, and that's the way some guys will.
And meanwhile, the NFL's got their own loose end that's been dangling out there for a few years now. In our nation's capital. They got their issue.
My God.
They can't resolve. They haven't been able to resolve. This is unfortunate, but I think the answer to your question is the only possible way to embarrass him enough is if there's a massive player revolt. So. We'll see.
All right, Robert, anything else on your mind, kid?
No, I don't think so. I'm just, I'm still a little bit not upset, but, disappointed to hear about Robert Williams. Other than that, no, I'm fine. And,
well, I want to tell you,
I'm looking forward. I'm going to, tonight, as we speak, it's Wednesday, the 21st, and I'm going to go to the Garden tonight for the ABCD Hoop Dreams.
Oh, good.
Which was an idea that came out of the fertile mind of Mr. Glenn Doc Rivers back in 2011. And this is our annual night fair, the fundraiser for ABCD. Brad Stevens will be joining me there. And these lucky guys and girls will be playing for their company teams in a fun little round robin tournament at the Garden tonight. So and if you've got a friend, somebody on that you want to come cheer for, come on out.
Or support ABCD if you're looking at this podcast or listeners to this podcast or Zoom later on. Bob, I will just wrap up by saying this. Before you know it, basketballs will be flying. There will be training camps will be opening. And when we discussed doing this podcast in the summer, I think the idea is, what will we talk about? We didn't have a problem.
No. You know why? Because it's true, all sports, there's only two seasons. You're playing games or you're not playing games. And when you're not playing games, there has become as much conversation that we can have as when you're playing games. We have become 12. There's no such thing as off season.
No.
And that's a fact. It's just you're not playing games, but there's still always something to talk about.
But if you're
by the way, congratulations to Spain for winning the Eurobasket and Willie, we hardly know you, Hernan Gomez being the MVP. Okay.
Only knowledge that can be dropped by Bob Ryan. And yes, the 12-month season now, it sucks for sports, right? It sucks for the beat guy.
Yeah, I never had to live through that one.
You did not.
I used to take vacation.
All right, Bob, thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you next week. And
okay,
we'll bring him back.
This episode of the Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase.